The icy wind cut through the metal walls of the outpost, rattling the thin panes of glass. Lieutenant Arik Malone pulled his thick jacket tighter, glancing out at the frozen plains that stretched endlessly beyond the research station. The planet, Glacius 9, was quiet, almost too quiet. Scientists had chosen this remote world for its untouched landscapes and unique wildlife, but for Arik, it was lonely. Weeks of isolation weighed heavily on him, yet he found comfort in the small routines of the outpost, checking sensors, logging environmental data, and repairing equipment. Tonight, though, something unusual happened. Arik had just climbed into his bed, exhausted from hours of maintaining the solar arrays outside, when he heard it, a soft, almost melodic rustling from the corner of his room. At first he froze, unsure whether it was a malfunctioning ventilation system or some small animal that had somehow found its way inside. Then he saw her. A small creature no taller than a child slid gracefully across the floor. Her fur shimmered silver under the dim light, and her large, round eyes reflected a strange mix of curiosity and intelligence. She moved with a fluid elegance that reminded Arik of a cat, yet her features were distinctly alien. The creature stopped at the edge of his bed. She tilted her head, studying him with a cautious yet unafraid gaze. Arik's first instinct was to call for security or try to shoo her away, but there was something in her eyes, a quiet trust, a gentle curiosity that made him hesitate. Slowly, almost hesitantly, she climbed onto the bed. Her movements were careful, deliberate. When she pressed against him, seeking warmth, Arik felt a strange calm wash over him. The creature made a soft, vibrating sound, almost like a purr. It was not threatening. It was affectionate. Arik sat up, running a hand along the alien's soft fur. The sensation was unlike anything he had felt before, warm, silky, and faintly glowing under the room's artificial light. She tilted her head again, letting out another soft purr, as if encouraging him to stay calm. "Where did you come from?" Arik whispered. He didn't expect an answer, but the creature blinked slowly, almost as if she understood. She pressed closer, resting her small head against his chest. Arik's mind raced. The outpost had protocols for alien life, but he had never expected anything like this. Glacius 9 was supposed to be mostly uninhabited. Other researchers had reported traces of wildlife, small, hardy animals adapted to the ice, but nothing remotely intelligent or this trusting. He glanced at the door, debating whether to call Dr. Lenza, the lead xenobiologist. But the creature seemed calm, unafraid of him. For some reason, he felt that calling attention to her might scare her away. Instead, he lay back, letting her curl beside him, her small body fitting perfectly against his side. The room was quiet except for her soft purring and the distant hum of the outpost's generators. Arik felt a strange connection forming, one that required no words. He had read about humans forming bonds with animals, but this was different. This was intelligent curiosity meeting human patience and care. He studied her features. Her ears were pointed and flicked at every tiny sound. Her tail, long and thin, twitched gently. Her eyes were enormous, black like liquid pools, but filled with something unexpected. Awareness. She wasn't just an animal. She was something more. For hours, Arik and the creature simply lay together. He spoke softly, telling her about the outpost, about Glacius 9, and even about his childhood back on Earth. She listened, tilting her head occasionally, purring in response. It was almost as if she understood the emotions behind his words, even if not the words themselves. By midnight, the harsh wind outside had calmed, leaving a soft snow falling against the outpost windows. Arik felt a warmth spreading through him, a warmth that had nothing to do with his thermal blanket. The creature had chosen to trust him, a human, in a world where survival was harsh and every creature fought for life. For the first time in weeks, Arik felt truly connected. He realized humans had something unique, something that no other species, or so he thought, could match. It wasn't just strength or intelligence. It was empathy, patience, and the ability to understand without expecting anything in return. As he drifted toward sleep, the creature curled into a perfect circle beside him. Her purring slowed, matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. Arik made a silent promise. He would protect her, learn from her, and understand this strange, beautiful life that had chosen him. The first step, he knew, was trust, and trust had already been given. Morning came with a gentle light seeping through the ice-streaked windows. The creature stretched, her small limbs moving with fluid grace. She hopped off the bed, pacing the room as if ready to explore. Arik followed, notebook in hand, documenting her behavior, movements, sounds, reactions. Every little action fascinated him. How did she balance so perfectly on the icy floor? How did her tail communicate emotion? Why did her purr seem to resonate directly with human emotions? Questions piled in his mind, but none of them felt overwhelming. Instead, he felt excitement, a scientist's excitement, but deeper, tinged with wonder. Arik realized that the galaxy might see humans as fragile, ordinary, or limited. But here, on Glacius 9, in a quiet room filled with a purring alien, he understood that humans had something extraordinary. Empathy, curiosity, and the courage to connect with the unknown. It was what made humans exceptional. And so, the day began not with work or reports, but with discovery. The alien moved about, investigating the equipment, sniffing the walls, and occasionally returning to Arik for comfort. The bond they were forming was quiet but powerful, a connection that transcended language, culture, or species. Little did Arik know this small, silver creature would not only change his life but reveal a truth about humanity that no alien civilization had yet understood. That humans, in their warmth, patience, and courage, were capable of something truly remarkable. The morning sun, pale and cold through Glacius 9's thick clouds, cast a silver glow across the research outpost. Lieutenant Arik Malone sat at his small desk, scribbling notes in his logbook. The creature, the silver-furred alien that had appeared in his quarters the night before, was perched on the edge of his desk, watching him with its enormous black eyes. Arik had named her Lyra, after a star constellation that shone brightly in his home planet's night sky. It seemed fitting. She was small, mysterious, and luminous in a way that drew people in. But Lyra was not just beautiful, she was curious. Every movement he made, every word he wrote, seemed to fascinate her. She tilted her head, ears flicking, in rhythm with the sounds of the room, occasionally reaching out a delicate paw to touch his pen or notebook. "What do you think, Lyra? Should we check the northern sensors today?" Arik asked, keeping his voice calm and friendly. Lyra blinked slowly and pressed her soft head against his arm. It wasn't a clear answer, but to Arik, it was encouragement. He realized something extraordinary. Lyra wasn't just responding to him as an animal might. She seemed to understand the tone of his voice, the intention behind his actions, and the emotions he carried. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, not for strength or intelligence, but for empathy. And here, in a quiet outpost on a frozen world, that empathy was forging a bridge between species. Arik decided to experiment, cautiously. He placed a small, smooth rock on the desk. Lyra sniffed it, then tapped it lightly with her paw. It rolled slightly, and she purred. Encouraged, Arik moved the rock again. Lyra tapped it once more, observing the cause and effect. Her actions were deliberate, careful, and thoughtful. "This is incredible," Arik whispered. "You're learning fast." Over the next few hours, Arik discovered that Lyra's purring changed depending on the situation. When she was curious or pleased, it was soft and rhythmic. When startled or cautious, it became quicker, vibrating through her body in a tense way. Humans could respond to tones and gestures naturally. Machines, no matter how advanced, could not replicate that subtle understanding. It was empathy, and it was uniquely human. By mid-afternoon, Arik decided to take Lyra outside. The outpost had a small observation deck, protected by thick walls and clear panels that offered a view of the icy plains. He carried her carefully, keeping her warm in his jacket. The cold wind outside was harsh, but she seemed unfazed, her fur insulating her perfectly. As they stepped onto the deck, Lyra's eyes widened. She sniffed the air, twitched her tail, and moved cautiously to the edge, peering out at the vast landscape. For Arik, this was a moment of joy. He had spent months studying the wildlife of Glacius 9 from a distance, but now he was seeing it through Lyra's perspective, her curiosity, her wonder, and her instinct for exploration. "You see, Lyra," he said, pointing to the horizon. "This world is harsh, but it's full of life. You're part of it now, and I think we can help each other survive." She purred softly, brushing against his arm as if acknowledging his words. Back inside, Arik set up a series of small puzzles for her, simple objects to test her intelligence, sliding panels, small levers, and lightweight shapes to move or arrange. Lyra approached each one carefully, studying it before taking action. Sometimes she failed, sometimes she succeeded, but always she learned. Arik marveled at her adaptability. Most alien species were cautious, slow to trust, or completely uninterested in human interaction. Lyra, however, bonded quickly, recognizing kindness and patience when she saw it. Humans, with their Abby. The next morning, the icy plains of Glacius 9 stretched under a pale sun, shimmering like millions of tiny diamonds. Lieutenant Arik Malone awoke to find Lyra already on the desk beside his bed, her silver fur glowing faintly in the early light. She tilted her head, watching him with her large black eyes. Her presence had become a comforting constant. She was more than just a companion. She was a partner. Arik sat up, rubbing his tired eyes. "Good morning, Lyra. Ready for another day of discovery?" She purred softly in response, pressing her head against his shoulder. It was the same purr as before, but this morning it felt different, full of energy, almost like excitement. Arik smiled. He had begun noticing subtle variations in her purrs, almost as if she were trying to communicate more complex emotions. After breakfast, he set up a small area in the lab with objects of different shapes, sizes, and colors. His goal today was to see if Lyra could understand patterns and cause and effect, not just instinctively explore. He placed a series of sliding panels in front of her, with small treats hidden behind them. Lyra observed carefully. Her ears twitched, and her tail flicked in a rhythm that Arik would later describe as thoughtful. Slowly, she began to manipulate the panels. When a treat appeared, she purred, tapping Arik with her paw as if to say, "Look, I did it." "This is amazing," Arik said, his voice full of wonder. "You're learning faster than I imagined." It wasn't just her intelligence that impressed him. It was her understanding of communication. Lyra responded not only to rewards but also to encouragement. She began anticipating his gestures, waiting for him to point before moving panels, and seemed to recognize subtle shifts in his tone of voice. Humans, Arik thought, were uniquely capable of forming this kind of intuitive connection. Hours passed as they worked together. Arik taught her simple signals. A tap on the table meant, "Come here." A hand wave meant, "Wait." And a soft hum meant, "Good job." Lyra responded flawlessly. It was as if a new language was forming, not through words, but through trust, gestures, and emotion. During a break, Arik gazed out the lab window. The icy plains were quiet, but he knew they were alive with subtle movements. Small creatures scurried under the snow, and the larger ones they had seen the day before lingered, in the distance, cautious but aware. He realized something profound. Humans and their companions could communicate across species in ways no machine or alien technology could replicate. It was empathy, patience, and understanding combined, a human strength unique in the galaxy. Suddenly, the lab's sensors beeped, signaling movement near the outpost. Arik's heart quickened. He grabbed a thermal scanner and Lyra leapt onto his shoulder, eyes wide. The screen showed a group of larger creatures approaching. Unlike before, these weren't just distant observers. They were moving closer, cautiously, as if testing the waters. "All right, Lyra," Arik said, speaking softly. "Let's see if we can understand them together." He stepped outside with Lyra, carrying a small device to project calming lights and sounds. The creatures hesitated, but Lyra walked forward confidently, tail raised, purring in a steady, soothing rhythm. Arik watched in amazement as the creatures slowed, their tension easing under the alien purr. "It's your communication, Lyra," he whispered. "They trust you. Because of you." The creatures lingered for a while, observing. Lyra chirped softly, responding to their subtle movements. Arik noticed that her gestures, tiny flicks of her ears, the swish of her tail, her gentle purr, conveyed meaning the creatures seemed to understand. It was a silent dialogue, one Arik could only partially interpret. Yet even without full understanding, he recognized the brilliance of it. Humans, through patience and empathy, had enabled cross-species communication that no other species could achieve. Later, back in the lab, Arik began experimenting with patterns of lights and sounds, trying to see if Lyra could link them to meaning. To his delight, she quickly associated certain tones with specific actions. A high hum meant come, a low buzz meant wait, and a gentle chime meant good job. It wasn't speech, but it was language, shared understanding through observation, trust, and feedback. As the day ended, Arik and Lyra settled on the observation deck. Snow fell softly around them, sparkling in the fading sunlight. Lyra nestled against him, her purrs slow and content. Arik stroked her fur, thinking about the journey they had started together. No one had ever thought humans could connect so deeply with alien species. Machines, logic, and brute force could never replicate this bond. It was human empathy, patience, and curiosity that created something entirely new. In that quiet moment, Arik realized that the universe might one day judge species by strength or technology. But humans had a different kind of power, the power to connect, to understand, and to inspire trust. Lyra's trust in him wasn't just affection, it was recognition of a human quality that no alien or machine could mimic. "Tomorrow, we'll try something even harder," he whispered, smiling. "We'll see if we can teach you to communicate more clearly, maybe even with the other creatures." Lyra purred softly, pressing her head against him. It was as if she agreed, eager to continue their shared exploration. For the first time, in a long while, Arik felt a deep sense of purpose. Glacius 9 was not just a frozen wasteland, it was a place of discovery. A place where human empathy and curiosity could change the galaxy's understanding of life. And with Lyra by his side, he knew there was no limit to what they could achieve together. As the stars began to appear in the clear night sky, Arik watched them twinkle above the icy plains. He felt a quiet determination settle in his chest. The universe was vast, mysterious, and sometimes dangerous, but humans had something extraordinary. They could connect, understand, and inspire trust across species, across worlds, across unimaginable distances. And with Lyra curled beside him, he knew this was only the beginning. The icy wind howled across Glacius 9, rattling the outpost's walls and making the frozen plains shimmer like glass. Lieutenant Arik Malone adjusted his jacket and glanced at Lyra, who was perched calmly on the observation deck railing. Her silver fur rippled in the cold, and her large black eyes followed his every movement. They had grown closer with each passing day, forming a bond that went beyond words. Arik had been monitoring the northern ice fields for hours. Reports from the sensors indicated unusual movement, strange patterns among the ice ridges and valleys. Normally, Glacius 9's wildlife was predictable, but today, something felt different. Lyra twitched her ears and emitted a low, cautious purr. She had sensed it before the scanners did. "All right, partner," Arik whispered, kneeling beside her. "Let's check it out." Together they stepped carefully onto the icy plains. The wind stung their faces, but Lyra moved with confidence, her paws gripping the ice like they were made for it. Arik followed, taking careful steps, scanning for signs of danger. As they approached the ridge, the unusual activity became clear. A large ice quake had fractured part of the terrain, creating unstable crevices and shifting ice sheets. Aric's heart raced. This was more dangerous than anything they had faced before. If anyone fell into a fissure, survival was unlikely. The sensors showed that a small herd of the larger creatures they had seen earlier was trapped nearby, panicked and unsure of where to go. "Lyra, we need to help them," Aric said, keeping his voice calm. He had learned that animals, both native and alien, responded to his tone. Lyra purred softly and began moving ahead, carefully signaling with subtle chirps and tail flicks to the creatures. It was astonishing. The creatures responded, halting their frantic movements and following Lyra's guidance. Aric realized that her ability to communicate was not limited to humans. She had become a mediator between species, a bridge of trust and understanding. The ice beneath them creaked ominously. Aric led the creatures toward safer ground, but one misstep sent a small sheet of ice sliding toward a deep fissure. A young creature froze, unsure of what to do. Without hesitation, Lyra darted forward, nudging the creature to safety while purring a reassuring rhythmic sound. Aric followed closely, guiding both the alien and Lyra back to stable ground. Breathing heavily, Aric looked at Lyra. "That was close," he said. "You saved them." Lyra chirped softly, brushing her head against his arm. It was a moment of silent acknowledgement, the kind that only a human and a trusted companion could share. The ice quake was not over. Tremors rippled across the plains, shifting large slabs and creating new hazards. Aric quickly realized that the outpost's northern sensors were inadequate for this level of danger. Improvised measures were needed. He directed Lyra to follow him while he set up temporary markers along safe paths, ensuring both the creatures and himself could navigate the unstable terrain. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional rumble of shifting ice and the soft purrs of Lyra guiding frightened creatures. The situation was delicate. One mistake could lead to disaster. Yet through patience, careful observation, and trust, Aric and Lyra managed to lead the animals back toward safer regions, away from the unstable fissures. By late afternoon, the tremors had slowed, and the immediate danger passed. Aric collapsed onto a snow-dusted ridge, exhausted but relieved. Lyra curled against him, her purrs soft and content. They had survived together, relying not on technology alone, but on understanding, trust, and human empathy. As the sun dipped toward the stars above Glacius 9 twinkled like distant jewels, reflected on the icy plains below. Lieutenant Aric Malone stood on the observation deck, Lyra perched lightly on his shoulder. The planet had changed since his first days at the outpost. Where there had once been isolation and silence, there was now connection. Between human and alien, between species, and perhaps even between worlds. The interstellar scientists had returned to their ships, carrying recordings, notes, and observations. Aric's work with Lyra had not only proven her intelligence, it had also highlighted something far greater: the extraordinary ability of humans to connect with life forms in ways no other species could. As he surveyed the horizon, Aric remembered the first night Lyra had appeared in his quarters. She had simply slid onto his bed, pressed against him, and purred. At the time he had been surprised, unsure, even cautious. Now he understood. That moment had been the beginning of something far larger than either of them had imagined. Lyra chirped softly, her tail flicking with anticipation. Aric smiled. "You're ready for the next step, aren't you, Lyra?" He gestured toward the open plains. Today, they would explore farther than ever before, mapping unknown territories and interacting with creatures no one had seen up close. They moved across the frozen landscape, careful but confident. Lyra led, her instincts sharp, ears flicking, and eyes scanning. Aric followed, noting patterns, marking paths, and observing reactions. The bond between them allowed for silent communication. A twitch of her tail, a gentle purr, a pause. Each signal conveyed meaning that Aric understood immediately. Hours passed as they discovered new species, some tiny and quick, others massive and slow-moving, yet all curious about the unusual duo. Lyra's presence calmed them, while Aric's gestures and tone reassured them. It was a partnership unlike any other, human empathy combined with alien instinct. Together they had become ambassadors of trust in a world that was often cold and harsh. As night fell, they reached a ridge overlooking a wide valley. The view was breathtaking, ice cliffs glittering in the pale moonlight, rivers frozen solid, and scattered life forms moving cautiously below. Aric pulled out a small notebook, sketching and recording everything. Lyra sat beside him, occasionally reaching out to tap a page with her paw. "You've changed this place, Lyra," he whispered. "Not just for us, but for anyone who will come after. We've shown them that trust is stronger than fear, that patience and care can create bonds even in the most dangerous places." Suddenly, the faint hum of a ship's engine reached them. Aric looked up and saw a new craft descending from the sky, smaller than the previous team's shuttle. He realized that word of his work had spread. Other explorers, scientists, and researchers were curious. They wanted to see what humans could do, how empathy, understanding, and courage could create connections that no alien technology could replicate. The new visitors landed softly in the snow. A small group of humanoid and alien scientists stepped out equipped with scanners and notebooks. They watched as Aric and Lyra approached, calm and confident. Lyra's tail flicked lightly, her purr steady. The creatures in the valley below paused, observing, sensing that the human-alien pair were leaders, not threats. Dr. Sarah Kint arrived with them, smiling warmly. "Aric," she said, "they've come to witness what you've done. The galaxy needs to see this, the way humans connect, understand, and inspire trust. You've set a new standard." Aric glanced at Lyra. She chirped and pressed her head against him. Together they had become more than a human and a small alien companion. They had become symbols of a truth often overlooked. That humans' greatest strength was not weapons, technology, or power, but empathy, courage, and the ability to connect across differences. The visiting scientists were guided to observe Lyra interacting with local species. She approached slowly, chirping and purring, while Aric demonstrated simple cues. The alien creatures reacted as before, calm, curious, and cooperative. The visitors recorded every movement, amazed at how instinct, patience, and understanding could achieve what machines, force, or intimidation could not. One of the visiting aliens, tall and angular, finally spoke. "I did not believe it possible," it said, its voice a low hum. "No species in the galaxy has demonstrated this bond. Humans, you are exceptional." Aric smiled. "It's not just me," he said. "It's humans. Our ability to care, to listen, to understand. We may be underestimated, but empathy can be stronger than fear." Night deepened and the icy plains were bathed in silver light. Aric and Lyra returned to the outpost, greeted by warmth and safety inside. The bond they shared had not only transformed their understanding of Glacius 9, but also the way the galaxy would perceive humans. As Aric prepared for bed, Lyra curled beside him, purring softly. He stroked her fur, feeling a quiet sense of pride. The universe was vast, filled with mysteries and challenges, but humans had shown that connection could overcome distance, fear, and difference. "This is just the beginning, Lyra," he whispered. "The galaxy is watching. One day everyone will understand what we've discovered together, that humans are capable of things no one else can imagine." The stars outside twinkled like a promise, reflecting in Lyra's large black eyes. In that moment, Aric knew something profound. Humans were more than survivors, explorers, or inventors. They were connectors, companions, and pioneers. And with beings like Lyra by their side, they could face the galaxy's mysteries with courage, patience, and heart. Glacius 9 had been a frozen, lonely world once. Now, it was a place of recognition, a place of learning, and a place of hope. Humans had proven their worth not through strength or technology alone, but through something far rarer, the ability to trust, to care, and to inspire others. even across species, even in the coldest and most distant corners of the universe, and as Arik drifted to sleep with Lyra curled beside him, he felt certain that this was not the end. It was a new frontier, one where humans would continue to explore, connect, and teach the galaxy what it meant to be truly extraordinary. The universe was vast, and challenges awaited, but humans had something no one else could match: their heart, their courage, and their ability to create bonds that could change worlds. And with Lyra at his side, Arik knew that together, they could face whatever the galaxy had in store. The icy sun hung low over Glacius 9, casting long silver shadows across the plains. Lieutenant Arik Malone stood on the observation deck of the research outpost, Lyra perched beside him. The small alien had become more than a companion. She was a partner in discovery, a living bridge between human understanding and the mysteries of this frozen world. Arik adjusted the sensors on the deck. For weeks they had been monitoring the movements of the planet's native creatures, trying to learn patterns and behaviors. Today, a new development awaited. A team of interstellar scientists had arrived in orbit, drawn by the outpost's unusual readings. They were curious about the human-alien bond that Arik had documented, and perhaps skeptical of its significance. The landing shuttle descended slowly, kicking up clouds of frozen particles. Arik stepped forward with Lyra at his side, the alien pressing close to him as if sensing his anticipation. The shuttle doors opened and 3 scientists emerged, 2 humans and 1 alien from a nearby federation. The alien looked tall and angular, with metallic gray skin and glowing blue eyes. Its gaze swept across Arik and Lyra, curiosity and maybe doubt written across its face. "Lieutenant Malone," said Dr. Sarah Kint, the lead human scientist, "we've received your reports. But we didn't expect this." She gestured toward Lyra, who sat calmly, watching the newcomers with her expressive black eyes. "She's intelligent," Arik said simply. "She's learned to understand human cues, respond to gestures, and communicate in her own way. It's more than instinct, it's understanding." The alien scientist tilted its head, emitting a soft clicking sound, which Arik instinctively knew meant skepticism. Yet Lyra seemed unfazed, purring softly, as if to assert her confidence. Arik realized that this calm trust was more powerful than any argument. Humans had something unique: patience, empathy, and the ability to earn trust naturally. The scientists were led to the lab, where Arik demonstrated the series of puzzles and cues he had been using to teach Lyra communication. As she completed each task, her tail flicking in rhythm, the visiting scientists watched in awe. Every gesture, every purr, every response was a testament to the quiet power of human guidance and understanding. "This is remarkable," said Dr. Kint. "We've studied countless species, but we've never seen one adapt and respond so quickly to human interaction." The alien scientist, still cautious, stepped closer. Lyra tilted her head and chirped, moving a small sliding panel to reveal a hidden treat. The alien observed, processing the scene. It had expected humans to interact with creatures through technology or force, but here, there was no coercion, only understanding and trust. Arik felt a surge of pride. Humans were often underestimated across the galaxy. Other civilizations assumed we relied on machines or brute strength, that our connections with lifeforms were weak. But here, with Lyra by his side, he knew the truth. Humans had an extraordinary gift, one no machine or alien could replicate. Over the next few hours, the visiting scientists took notes, asked questions, and attempted to engage with Lyra themselves. She responded, but only subtly. She eyed Arik and